Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining me again. It's hard to believe we're on day 8 of Rhythm and Resilience. And about 3 weeks ago or so, for those of you that are new, my spirit said, Michelle, you've got to find a rhythm to have some resilience through this universal reset. And so I started to find a little rhythm, and I have to tell you, yesterday I felt halfway normal. Today I don't feel like I have a rhythm at all, but it's just, that's the process and the ebb and flow of the times we're in. But during that, I thought, how do I help my community? And so I reached out to Eleanor, and we decided we would do this program. Of course, she does all the back end work. I get to do the fun part, the rhythm and resilience. And then I called my friends and the people that help me a lot. And so that's what we're doing here today. What I thought would be fun today is I invited my friend, Reverend Patricia T to join me. And I'll read her actual bio, but the real deal, she's my personal minister. And when I have the shift hitting the fan, I call her and she prays with me, and then she graciously sends me the prayer over like a voice email. And so it's just so nice. I actually still have those prayers that she's been praying with me through some of the drama and trauma I tend to go through being a business leader. So Patricia serves as the Interim CEO for the Unity Worldwide Ministries, an organization that supports 720 ministries around the world. Unity honors all spiritual traditions and presents a positive path to spirituality. Patricia is a speaker, retreat leader, and ordained minister. She's a former banking executive who felt a call to ministry 30 years ago. That's crazy. Her passion is prayer and helping people live more meaningful lives. And I can tell you without a doubt, she is living her calling because, as I mentioned, she is my spiritual teacher and my personal minister. So Reverend Patricia, welcome to Rhythm and Resilience.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And you know what, Michelle, you know that you are one of my great supports, mentors, and friends. And so it is really an honor to be with everybody here today.
Well, we've had a fun journey has it been 18 years? 17, 16?
No, it's been more like, I don't know, 15 years?
Yeah. 15, okay.
15 to 16, you're right, actually.
Somewhere between 15 and 20, I do know that part. Well, why don't you, if you don't mind, why don't you start us with either a prayer, meditation, whatever you feel a calling, and then we'll get started on our interview today.
Okay, thank you. And it really is good to see everybody here. And so I'm going to invite you, if you haven't already, to just mute your microphones. That would be helpful. And then just get comfortable where you are and turn within. That may look like closing your eyes if you feel comfortable doing that. If you're in a place where it is comfortable to do so, you might want to put your feet on the ground. Just feel the ground and allow that to support you, allow your chair to support you. And then I invite you to take a comfortable, easy breath or two. Don't need to strain, just feel the breath gently going in and releasing at your own rate. So we make that journey from our head to our heart. Letting go of any particular to-do lists that you have, just set those aside so that you can be present in this now moment. And in this universe, there is a higher power. By whatever name you might use, that higher power is love. It is from this presence of love that the universe was created and that you yourself were spawned. You were created in the image and likeness and the very essence of love. I invite you to take another easy breath in and release, and just allow this truth to seep into your being that you are the essence of love in this world. And this higher power of love is unending and limitless. It is stronger than any particular situation that we might face. Love is the greatest healer in the universe. Love is the force through which this universe grows and evolves. And it is the very force that is moving through you and me in this moment, reminding us that we are strong, that we are resilient, and that love is our essence. So I invite us now to take just 30 seconds or so in the silence. And as we go into this time of silence, you might want to inwardly, silently affirm with me, I am loved and I am love. I am loved and I am love. In a moment of silence. We are loved and we are love. So let's take this truth that we know now, that we are claiming for ourselves, and see that love circulating outward from where we are, radiating outward to touch the hearts, the bodies, the minds of the people that we love, our inner circles. See the faces of those you love right now. See them whole and well. See them enfolded in this divine love of the universe. And allow now your visioning of love to extend outward, to embrace all those who might be considered first responders, doctors, nurses, EMTs, grocery store workers, all those who are supporting and bringing life at this time, enfolding them in love. And extending your love prayer outward now to encircle our planet Earth. Every living person and every living creature right now. Remembering that love is the greatest healer of all. And so we are grateful for this particular circle that's here in this moment, and any others who may listen to a recording of this in the future. Right now, we are all united in love. It is always the truth. We just claim it and declare it in this very moment. And so we end in gratitude, and so it is.
So it is. I guess that will kind of get you regrounded. And thank you very much for doing that right on the spot. I appreciate the words love, and I appreciate you again. Patricia, you know, I was thinking about your bio, and like you said, we've known each other 15 plus years. And you said you had a calling. And I am finding during this time of transformation or transition that some people might be feeling a calling. I know I'm feeling a calling to say, okay, what since my life's been kind of wiped clean at some level, not completely, but you know what I mean. How do people dial into that calling? How did you dial into that calling? And then that might be some guidance for people listening today or in the recording.
Well, you know what? The most exciting and high potential opportunities for calling are periods of transition. They just are, and we are in one huge period of transition right now. When our norms get knocked off center, is when we see something new that we didn't see before. We realize, we notice something new. When we are not walking the same path to work every day, or we're not driving the same path, all of a sudden we notice a flower that we didn't notice before. We notice a book we didn't notice before. So this is a ripe time to really tune into whatever callings anybody might have. And for me, I was in a time of transition too. I had chosen to leave my banking career because it was creating much too much stress in my family life. My husband and I had 2 small children, and I was just falling into bed with them late at night, barely time to tell them a story, and then I would fall asleep with them in their bed. And I just knew that this was not the life for me to continue, even though I was outwardly appearing very successful by people. This was in Texas. And so I ended up taking some time off by choice. And in that time of transition, which was foreign to me because I'd never not worked before, my husband said, I think you just need to take a break. I mean, I was blessed that he said that. So I didn't work for a while. I just became full-time mom and other sorts of things. And in the middle of that, I made a transition from the one church I'd been attending to a Unity church. And as much as I loved the former spiritual community I was a part of, I felt a much greater heart connection in that particular Unity church. And it came to the end of my time of not working, and I wasn't sure what the next step was. I only knew I didn't want to step back up on the ladder, right? I didn't want to step back up on the aggressively moving ladder that I'd been on. And so I had been journaling through this time. So journaling is a tool that's really helpful. Any morning thoughts that you can write down are helpful. And as my not working time, my sabbatical came to an end, I started to wonder what's next. And the particular job I thought was going to materialize didn't. So one night I read through all of my journals writings for this period of time. I read through every one of them. And then I prayed really hard, because prayer is my tool. And I prayed in a way that I don't normally pray. I'm not usually a get down on your knees and pray person, but I was praying hard, as if I were on my knees. I was praying hard. God, I use God as a name for higher power. Reveal to me what's next. What am I to do? How am I to serve? And then the next morning I awoke, and every cell of my body was different. I mean, it was a spiritual calling for me. I knew something I'd never entertained before, that I was to become a Unity minister. It was a mystical experience moment. It overtook every cell of my body. It was very, very clear. And I could say more about that, but it astonished me. Sometimes the callings that you have are not things you've considered before. In fact, the only time I'd ever said anything about being a minister was when I said I'd happened to have gone to visit some family in the hospital, and I said something to my husband about, I should be a minister. And we both laughed. We thought it was the most ridiculous idea we'd ever heard, because we knew that if I became a minister, I would just totally not have any boundaries. So what I would take from my story is the journaling helped, being in a time of transition helped, and then being open to a thought that might come to you that isn't familiar, but is strong and persistent. It's strong and persistent. So that's what I would share about that.
A thought that is strong and persistent. It's interesting. I've made some transitions throughout my journey, and it's been at a moment where all of a sudden I just felt the feeling inside. And I know during this time I'm feeling some feelings inside that I know I've had before. And so I'm going to encourage all of you to kind of dial in to those feelings and think about the journaling. Well, Patricia, you've been on my podcast before, Small Changes, Big Shifts. And not to confuse anybody, Rhythm and Resilience is kind of just a piece of that Small Changes, Big Shifts community, where we like to celebrate, guide, connect, which provide hope. And I believe that you are a carrier of hope. I know you've been a carrier of hope in my life. And so I'm curious, since you are, you have all these churches that need guidance right now, and you're the interim CEO. What a perfect interim CEO right now for them to have somebody so grounded and loving as you. What kind of guidance are you giving the ministers that are leading those churches right now? Because it's got to be a pretty scary time.
Well, I mean, there's very specific guidance that is particular to the churches and other communities too, of course, about how to provide the kind of caring and connection virtually that is new for most of our communities. And I imagine that I guess that actually does transcend all communities. We're all trying to provide caring and connection in a virtual world. But one of the pieces of wisdom that I heard from someone else, and then I've passed it on to the churches and the centers, is that people right now are craving connection, not perfection. And connection, not perfection. And that was really empowering to me too, personally, because I didn't know what I was doing in this particular time period. And I know that many of our ministers didn't feel like they knew what they were doing. And what I wanted to encourage them was just get out and try it. Just get out, have your first service on Zoom, have your first Facebook Live service. And I'm doing some of those new things as well myself. And one of the quotes that I came across that was really helpful to me was from somebody named Brian Andreas. And he wrote, "You've never been in this exact moment before, so you don't need to pretend like you know exactly what to do." I mean, none of us have ever been in this exact moment before. And so we don't need to pretend that we know exactly what to do. And that's true whether we're talking to our children and trying to support them, or whether we're talking to a coworker, or in my case, hundreds of churches. Authenticity is what's really important. And so my encouragement to our credentialed leaders out there, our spiritual leaders, is, get out there and try what seems right to you, and if you do that and come from a pure intention, then you'll be able to make that connection.
It makes me think of some guidance I was sharing with somebody. This is don't try not to be frozen. I think we had the time to be frozen, and now we're 4 weeks into this COVID-19 situation, and it's time to take some action. And I call it planting seeds. And plant, water, plant, water, and you will thrive on the other side. It's just, you got to watch what you're planting in your thoughts and your nutrition and your relationships and every activity like that. So you brought up the word wisdom, and this is Wisdom Wednesdays, hence why I picked you to help share today. So you're reaching out to them to connect. What is some guidance somebody has given you that has helped you during this time of shift?
Well, one of the pieces of guidance that I heard was from actually a friend of mine who happens to be a minister. And one of the things he said he was wrestling with was that he felt like his faith was strong, but he was so brokenhearted. As we look out and we hear, and some of you right now, you may be on this phone and you may be experiencing COVID yourself, or you may have friends or family who are, or you're reading the media and listening to the media, and our hearts do get broken. And as he and I were talking, he said, the thing is, you can have both. Being brokenhearted doesn't mean that you've lost your faith in whatever it is that you have faith in, whether it's a higher power or whether it's a spiritual force that you believe is working for good. In fact, the stronger your faith is in some other force that is within you, the stronger that faith is, the more you can allow yourself to be brokenhearted. And so it's important, as you said, Michelle, not to be frozen if we can, and to feel our feelings. That is absolutely critical, giving your self time and space to do that, and to know that you're not going to fall into those feelings. You're not going to lose yourself into those feelings. You're simply acknowledging who you are in a given moment, and whether those feelings are fear, whether those feelings are sadness, whatever those feelings might be, to acknowledge them gives you the power to move through them. If you're feeling lonely, to be able to say, I'm feeling lonely. That's really important. I've had moments of pure terror, and I've had moments of uncontrollable tears. And each time I allowed myself to go through the tears or through the fear, then I was able to be stronger and more present on the other side. So I guess what I'm saying is, it's not a sign of weakness. It's not a sign of lack of faith to be in a place of sadness or any unpleasant emotion. Give yourself permission to feel it, and then you can begin to move to the other side to action and so forth. Because then you move out of the frozen. It's the frozen place that prevents us from feeling the feelings. And not to be critical about that, because as I guess most of you know, your body may only allow you to feel what you're really able to process in that moment. So you don't need to force it. Just be gentle and allow it.
Be gentle and allow it. It makes me think of one of my favorite quotes is, you can't heal it if you don't reveal it.
Yeah.
And so I believe for me, this time is just showing some other things inside me that I need to heal, and of how I could walk through them. And that's what we created this community for, so that we can support each other. And so thank you for being part of that. I'm curious, go ahead.
I just wanted to piggyback on what you said about revealing and healing. That may well come from, there's a prayer called the Grace Prayer, and it's a longer prayer, but an essence that you might want to, that people might use as a tool to pray is, reveal that which needs to be revealed and heal that which needs to be healed. Just that simple phrase: reveal what needs to be revealed and heal what needs to be healed. And then it goes on from there. But that's a prayer that I pray often to sort of inspire spirit alive in me to reveal what I need to know, so that I can then heal and move forward.
And you said that's the Grace Prayer, just so that we can capture this for our show notes. Do you know who that's by?
I do not, but I can. I mean, I do sort of, but I can't get hold of the name at the moment. So okay. I can give you the whole prayer as soon as we're done, and you can capture that in the notes. How about that?
Yeah, we could share it with people, because you've shared that prayer with me before, and it is a wonderful prayer. I'm curious, what was your biggest challenge prior to COVID? And then the next question will be, what's your biggest challenge post or during COVID? I think there's going to be the pre, during, and post. So I'm curious how perspective changes during this time.
Well, my biggest challenge, in my case, they're still rather similar. My biggest challenge was this particular position that I'm in, which is an interim position. And I stepped out of retirement. I'd retired from church ministry. I stepped out of retirement to take this particular position in it. And it's a big one in an organization that is in a time of transition, right? So, but the projects we were working on were different than the projects we're working on now. So once the COVID situation hit, that became the priority right there. And everything else sort of shifted down. And in its own frightful, but also affirming way, having one priority to focus on is really helpful, because those other things that seemed important are just not as important. In my case, they weren't. So, my challenge then became, okay, how do I support with my team? I have a great team of employees. How do we support all these churches and ministers in navigating these particular waters right now? And the other piece of that is, I have been open to the many blessings that I've been able to see in my life. And so despite the challenges of the time, some of my relationships are really strengthening because of this situation.
Are you enjoying time with your husband and daughter?
Yes, I'm enjoying their company. I'm so busy that I honestly am not enjoying it as much as I'd like, but I have created a path. I'm very lucky that they're both here. And but my habit now is between my many wonderful meetings that I have online, I take a break between each one. I run downstairs and say hello to my husband. It might even be just a 30-second hello, or it might be a 2-minute hello. But I go down and sometimes I just touch him. It just feels good to have another person to touch. I kiss him on the head or what have you and come back up. And then I'm sort of like refreshed. And I get the running up and down the stairs like you mentioned, just to get out of the chair, is really important. And I think that transcends, even if you don't have a person that you can run downstairs and touch or connect with, to send a text to someone, to, give a call to someone, and just a short bit of FaceTime or connection can help you then move on to whatever's next on your thing for you to do.
That is true. I have to tell you, I've enjoyed being able to have those little moments, have lunch together and things like that, spend time with my dogs. I believe there's going to be a new way of being for me. I'm not sure about everybody else, but there's going to be a new way of being of probably no longer sitting the 12 hours at the office back to back, and instead of just trying to figure out how to mix up my life. By the way, to our listeners, and welcome to a few new listeners joining us, this is a great time to share in the chat kind of what you've gotten out of the last few sessions we've had, so we could celebrate that. At the same time, if you have some questions for Reverend Patricia, please start to put those in the chat right now. That would be awesome. So what are you hopeful for right now? What's given you just this sense of peace and hopefulness now? Because I know you're a woman full of faith, but where is the hope at?
My hope comes from the belief and the experience that whenever the world goes through a crisis, that we develop new strengths that we didn't know we had, and new ways of connecting. I was watching the other day a documentary on Chernobyl, where the nuclear accident was about 30 years ago. And right after that, they declared a 100-kilometer radius around Chernobyl as uninhabitable. And so everybody was evacuated. 100,000 people were evacuated, and no one lives there now. And yet, after the accident, it was barren, and forests had been damaged, and there was no life. But if you look at it today, there's all manner of wildlife. There's all manner of trees and forests growing back. Now, that doesn't comment on whether there's still radioactivity around, but it appears to have lots of life. And that's part of nature too. In that same particular documentary that I was watching, it was talking about how forests are and how the fires can be very, really life-giving to the forest. It's part of their life process for the fires to go through to clear out the underbrush so new seedlings can emerge. So nature and the patterns of life themselves give me hope. I am confident that we will develop through this heartbreaking time. We will develop greater compassion and greater connection. Those two things you can already see growing. That's not to say that we're going to reach a point where it's ever back to the old normal. I think the new normal is going to have greater connection, greater compassion. And I bet some of you are finding the same thing I am, which is that, how can I put this? There are tools that I could have used always and didn't, but now I'm having to use them. I just had a hangout session with my daughter, her husband, they live in New Zealand. Her husband's parents, they live in Houston. I'm in Kansas City. And Brian and I, we just had a big old hangout with them. Now, we could have done that anytime. But we'd never, the six of us, hung out on Zoom before. And so we'll do that again. I mean, that's a simple thing, but and it will help us stay more connected. So that's my hope. It's been in all the spiritual writings that you look at, there are seasons of crisis followed by seasons of abundant life. And so each time we evolve, it's the process of evolution. And it even through the pain, we evolve. In fact, sometimes most profoundly through the pain, we evolve.
So I'm part of the, this is part of the evolution of our soul's journey. I've got this little question in the back of my mind that is asking, because you've counseled a lot of people through your 30 years. And I'm curious, are there buckets? Because, I think for like in wellness care, I've got people with anxiety, I've got people with pain, I've got people with sleep issues, but really there's probably a half a dozen or a dozen buckets. Very seldom does something come outside of that, So I'm curious, with a human condition, and you've sat soul to soul with people, not role to role, but soul to soul, and you've counseled them. Have there been some buckets that you can kind of put things to?
Yeah, I'm going to answer that question two ways. First, because I just happened to remember this, I worked for about a year at a prayer ministry in Unity Village, Missouri, called Silent Unity. You may have heard of it. You can call them 24 hours a day for prayer support. And they get 2 million prayer calls a year. And the number one category of prayer that they receive is about health and healing. That's number one. So Michelle, you're in the right business there. But in terms of the actual people that have come to me for counseling, the number one consistent ache that people come in with is a feeling of unworthiness or not being good enough. There is some particular yardstick that they're measuring themselves against, and they feel like they don't measure up. And that I would say that's number one, and that's at the source of all kinds of things. It might be that they present with a relationship problem, or they present with an employment issue, but underneath it, for most people, it is this belief that we're just not deserving enough, good enough. We have screwed up royally. We've made a mistake. We'll just never be really worthy of someone else's love, really worthy of this job where we think we're a fraud, that sort of message. And so, and a lot of times what people just need to hear, they just need to hear somebody say to them with faith, like, that you are lovable and you are loved and you are made from the stuff of this universe. You're made from the very stuff of God, if you believe in that word God, or the very stuff of love, which is the highest power. And it takes time. Michelle, you and I've both been to the Hoffman, done the work at Hoffman, and that really helps to teach you self-love. And that really helped to teach me self-love. And so self-love, it really is it, and it's not trite. It's just not trite. It's the truth.
Yeah, self-care is kind of the avenue to self-love. And that's why I'm so blessed to get to do this work. But it's not just helping other people. It's mostly helping myself so that I'm not the 5-letter F word fraud. And so we're just all bumping along on this journey, trying to figure out how do we get to our purpose and our passion and our path. I think I have a quote that says you have to have patience on the path to your purpose is a great quote. And talk a little bit more about Silent Unity, because some people right now do have aches in their heart, or a lot of people do. And we have this wonderful resource. I've called Silent Unity many times. They have the Daily Word, and they have even the Daily Word online. It's posted for free on social. So share a little bit about a wonderful resource, Silent Unity.
And you'll be able to put it on your in the notes for the call too. So it's a group of 100 or so people who are trained in prayer and believe in prayer, and they offer non-denominational prayer support. When you call in, they will pray with you on the phone. Now today, because of our particular world, they are working from their homes and their hours are more restricted. Normally it's 24 hours a day, but you can call them from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. right now. And they will offer prayer with you. They'll send you a letter of support if you'd like to have that. And they are really incredible people. As I said, I got to work there for a year, and their faith is really strong. And people call with all manner of things. And so, when when it's 9:30 at night and who else can you call? You can call there. Or if it's 2 a.m, usually they would be right there ready for prayer calls. There's also a great app called You Pray, and it's a free app, and it's the letter U and the word pray. And the You Pray app allows you to text them a prayer, and then they will email you back a response if you'd like or not. And they take all the prayers that come in, they put in what they call their prayer vigil chapel. And there's always somebody holding the space for all the prayers that have come in for the last 30 days. So not only does somebody pray with you, or if you text in the prayer, they pray over your prayer request, but the names that you send in, your name, your first name, will go into their prayer vigil, where there's always somebody there holding space, holding the high watch over those prayers. So it's just remarkable. Thank you. Eleanor's put that down there right now. I see in the chat box. And one of the ways I like to use it is I like to send in a prayer request, and then I get this beautiful letter back, and then I forward that to whoever I've been praying for. So, if I was praying for Carol, for instance, they would then send me back a lovely letter that I could forward to Carol to just let her know I'm holding her the high watch for her. And Unity is based on the teachings. It is based on Christian teachings, but it's all interpreted very metaphysically, and the prayers they offer, they serve all manner of spiritual walks. That's how they offer it.
Well, 2 million prayers is a lot. And so I'm going to encourage anybody on the phone, if you want to send me a private chat, and then maybe we can do a little bit of a prayer as we wrap up here, or I can forward that. Patricia, I can forward it to Patricia, and she can maybe send you a prayer as well.
Yeah, and Michelle, you know how I love to pray with people, and you've referred some of your clients to me before. I love to give personal prayer, and so I would be very happy for any of you who would like to pray with me. Maybe best go through Michelle, and then she'll just forward it on to me. Yeah. Actually, I can just give you my email. I'd be happy to put that in the bottom. If anybody would like to reach out for prayer, you can do that. I'm happy to receive those. And my email is patriciatbass@gmail.com. patriciatbass@gmail.com. And I would be happy to, then schedule a time to visit with you and pray with you.
Well, I want to tell you, it is hopefully you all sign up. No, not because Patricia's busy, but I would recommend it, especially if you're having an ache around a loss of a family member, or maybe a loss of a job, or you're worried about finances, you're worried about your own health. I'm going back into my office tomorrow after about 17 days out of the office. And I have to tell you, there's a little fear, but my desire to serve is greater than that fear. But I have a plan of what I'm going to do for protection, and how I'm doing things. Today, I went and got an IV drip this morning to make sure that my immune system's kind of powered up. I'm like, okay, bring it on. Well, don't bring on COVID, but bring it on. Let me just go here and serve and do what I need to do. So I would encourage you all, if you are needing somebody to, if it's not Patricia, reach out to your minister or someone that you have on your spiritual tribe. We all need to have these advisors. I was talking with Crystal actually right before this call and saying, I don't know what to do about this or this. She goes, well, who can you call? Call your chiropractic coach, Janice. And so we all have people. And if you don't think you have those people, take a few moments today and think about who supports you. I believe most of us have that. I'm not going to say all of this because I know that's not true, but we have people on our side. And I want to let you know that I'm willing to vision with you. I can pray with you, but you got the best. This is, once again, this is my person I go to pray with and pray for me. So I can't touch that, but I'm okay in a pinch. Then once again, this is a great time to ask questions. Feel free to send them to me privately or to the group as well. Patricia, would you say your medicine to the world is your prayers?
I think so. It is a tool that I use, and so I would say that it is a medicine to the world. And the other piece of that is my strong faith in love, and that love really is the greatest power. And I just do my best to remember that and to be that. It's part of my mission statement, is just to be a presence of love that heals, uplifts, and blesses the world. So sometimes that love shows up as prayer. Sometimes it shows up in other ways. But I would say my medicine is prayer. Yeah.
To our listeners today, we're going to start to wrap up our show. I'd be curious to see what gift you got out of today's talk. But Patricia, what gift have you gotten from, quote, the quarantine life, the QL, the big QL?
The gift at the moment is a real deepened relationship with my husband, I would say. It has deepened that for us as we have supported each other and been really vulnerable, each of us, as we've needed to in this time. So that, I would say that is a gift. And the other is, how can I put this? It's an overused expression to say you're right where you need to be, in this moment. But when I first accepted this particular position, I wasn't really clear why I was brought into it. And then when this happened, I just got clear that even through my fear and doubt, that I am right where I need to be. That, we all have a ministry, people that we love, we care for, jobs that call us higher. But this is the ministry I'm to be doing right now, is supporting and loving these churches and centers around the world. And so that reaffirmed my faith. That was a gift to realize, Patricia, you know what? For all the questions you may have, you're right where you need to be right now. This is the moment. This is the moment we connect with Spirit. This is the moment that we serve and that we give, this now moment. And I am right where I need to be. And so that's true for every one of you. You are right where you are needed to be.
That is what I needed to hear today. So part of my gift today is I'm right where I need to be
You are.
In this moment, not tomorrow, but in this moment, right where I need to be. I had so many wonderful thoughts, but that's what really just went right to my heart. And so what a gift that is, to be able to share that.
And sometimes it requires you looking beyond your self-doubt to believe that, that especially in times like this where we may be feeling lonely or depressed or what have you, still in all, you're right where you need to be. And this is the moment that you connect with your source, with Spirit, with God, with the divine presence, only in this moment.
So I'm thinking here, for me, I'm pretty dialed in to my spirit because of my teachers like you and Mary Omwake. Not as dialed in as I could be, but I feel pretty good about it. And it's funny, I was chatting with Crystal yesterday, and about 8 or 9 months ago, I was like, we need to get some more coins. She's like, why do you want coins? And I'm like, I don't know. We just need to collect coins. And so we were laughing about that yesterday, thinking, gosh, I wish we had some gold coins, with all the stuff happening with the market. But how can people learn to listen to that voice, that little small voice? What are some tools?
Well, I tell you what, it is a voice, listening, it can be honed, it can. And, it starts with taking pauses in your day. And the pause may be to listen to a meditation, like Insight Timer is an app with great meditations on it. It might be just stopping long enough to sit outdoors for a moment. Whatever it is, for me, it is taking time to do what I call meditation and to sit in the quiet. I have kind of a meditation routine that I do. I can do it quickly if I've only got 5 minutes, or I can use the same steps and do it and take 30 minutes with that. But the more, and go into it without expectation, sit quietly without expectation that the big message is going to be revealed in that moment. Just have faith that what you're doing is building a relationship with this source, this higher power. And as you build that relationship, you will be able to hear more. without going into a whole lesson on meditation, just taking that. Some traditions call it Sabbath time, and Sabbath time can be anything from 5 minutes to a full day. I took kind of a Sabbath day last Thursday, and I did not reference emails. I did not answer phone calls, and I didn't listen to the media, and that right there cuts out so much chatter that it really was a reset for me. I was able to take a complete reset then.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that, because this is a time to honor that reset, whatever it is for you, and what that looks like. But I do believe that we got to turn off the noise, whatever that noise is for you, and dial in. I love to walk. It's one of my favorite things to do. Whether I'm walking with a podcast, walking with my one of 10 songs, because I'm not very musical. I have a very specific taste of what I like to listen to, or maybe it's a call with a friend, or maybe it's just absolutely nothing. And so that's a great way that I try to dial in. But I'm getting more and more keenly aware that I'm right where I need to be. So I'm glad you shared that. That also too, to trust. I think as you go through life, you start to trust a little bit more of those little nudges that kind of push you along. So we are going to start to wrap up. So for our listeners again, that are live with us today, this is a great time to share the love. Patricia, what's your thoughts on what's next? Do you have any sense that you're getting any guidance on what's next universal for the planet? Deepening compassion and connection. We got those two early. Any other thoughts that come to you?
I can't, I don't have a crystal ball, but the one thing that does keep coming to me is that we're going to get more deeply that we are a truly global world. That everything any one of us does impacts every other life on the planet. And not that that's a new idea, the butterfly effect of one flapping butterfly wing can actually impact the rest of the world. But we've seen how this virus has moved. We've seen how each of our commitment to stay safe and stay at home has made a difference and is making a difference. So the true understanding of our global unity is going to grow. Now, what we do with that, I can't say, but that piece is going to change at the highest level, I believe, and is already changing.
And that's a wonderful thing to happen. So we started this show on rhythm and resilience to get through this universal reset, talking about small changes that lead to big shifts. We're celebrating you. You've given us some great guidance. We can connect you. You gave us your personal email. Doesn't get much better than that. She's the only person that's given us her personal email, by the way, in day 8. And so thank you and not just a personal email, but also a personal prayer. Pretty darn good. I'd encourage if you have kids, maybe your kids can be on the prayer with you. What a great way to instill this sense of peace and calmness, which is one thing you brought to us today. Anything else that you feel called to share before we start to wrap up?
Yes. One other thing is that a friend of our family who's a psychologist made a very clear point with us. She said, or to my daughter actually, she said that sometimes in our day right now, we do something that seems normal, and yet nothing is normal. And so our brains, our bodies are always in dissonance right now between seeing what kind of looks normal, the tree growing outside, it looks normal. I'm sitting in my office. This is my normal office, but I know that there's a lot of unnormal stuff going on. And that right there that's a dissonance, and it takes energy. So I would say what I'm saying is that be gentle with yourself. If you don't understand why you're tired, I got news for you. Your brain and your heart and your body are dealing with this dissonance. So just be gentle with yourself, and at the same time, listen to these programs with Michelle, do everything you can to feed yourself positive messaging, because that's like giving yourself a hug. You know, who doesn't feel hugged when they look at Michelle, when they get to be around her? So, so do those good things for yourself, and then be gentle with yourself. Don't judge yourself, because you're amazing, and these are abnormal times. Okay, that's what they are, and I absolutely, yeah, I see somebody, Rihanna says she misses hugs. I miss hugs too, especially Michelle's. But I absolutely believe that there is a force for good. It is love. It is in this world, and it is active in you and as you, and it's all around you right now.
We are love. You are loved. You are lovely. Have you seen some of the chats coming through? It's been a blessing today. And Mark, we are sharing our strength with you today. And Mark, you've been showing up day after day here. And so just know that you're putting more tools on your tool belt to really feel the love, the connection, the compassion. I like that your daily routine, this is your must. The non-negotiables, I just got released a podcast I did with Be Love podcast. It's on social media today. And one of the questions that Christy Hayes asked me is, what's my non-negotiables as far as well-being? And so I'm glad that this is a non-negotiable for you right now, Mark. I'm really delighted at that. So tomorrow, I just want to let you know that tomorrow we'll be hearing from Frank Ferrante, and he's in the book and the movie, May I Be Frank. He's going to talk about his journey with addiction. You know, and I feel like we're stacking the deck here. He's also done the Hoffman process, Patricia. And actually, I think our Friday guest has done the Hoffman process. Maybe a lot of my friends have done the Hoffman process. So that's really interesting. I'm sitting here, I did not plan it that way. And so, he'll be joining us tomorrow and be sharing some of his insights with you. Patricia, I want to just help to wrap up the show and say how you inspire me. First of all, once again, when I think about the circle, we've talked about this a few times, the Dunbar, about relationships. And Patricia's one of those that continually feeds into me, and she's like my big sister. And she will text me, she'll call me, she'll say, let's go have lunch. And when we do that, probably at least once a quarter, and you really fill my soul. It's not just my heart, but you fill my soul. And so thank you for sharing your wisdom. I'm going to get teary with my people today, whether they're live with us or going forward. You have brought so much to my life. And I know you've brought a lot to this conversation today with all those people sharing today. So thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for being in my life too. I love you.